first thing Captain Threx noticed was the color. Human skin wasn't supposed to turn that shade of purple, not unless something had slammed into it with considerable force. And yet there she was, their lone human crewmate, Kita, walking back into the den with a crooked grin and a swollen bruise blooming across her cheek. The cubs saw it before any of the adults did. One of them shrieked, tiny claws fluffing out in defensive rage. "Kita! Who did this?" Point us at the enemy. Another one demanded. "We'll bite their knees." Kita blinked, still halfway through the doorway. I'm fine." The cubs didn't buy it for a second. They swarmed her legs like a furry, vengeful tide, their high-pitched growls echoing through the burrow ship's common room. To the untrained ear, it would have sounded absolutely adorable. To any member of the Threxian species, however, this was a declaration of war. Cub Elder Miri hissed, her voice sharp. "Kita returns injured. Protocol dictates accountability." Kita raised both hands in surrender. "It's really not name them," Miri said, and the entire den fell silent. "Name the creature who harmed you, and we will deliver retribution." Kita groaned, the bruise on her cheek throbbing in agreement. She lowered herself to sit among the cubs, who immediately piled into her lap, sniffing her face like tiny furry detectives examining evidence. "It wasn't a creature," she said, trying to sound as reassuring as possible. "It was a door." Every single cub froze. One of them repeated in disbelief, pupils shrinking. "A door? A stationary object?" Miri asked slowly, sounding personally offended. Kita winced. "In my defense, it moved really fast." "Doors do not move," a cub argued, his logic unshakable. "They do if you misjudge the timing," she countered. There was a long, stunned silence. Finally, one of the smallest cubs whispered with fierce determination, "We will avenge you." On the door, Kita buried her face in her hands. No, absolutely not. We are not waging a blood feud on the architecture, but Threxian society had many rules. Most of them involved claws, honor, and the immediate application of violence. And the greatest of these was simple. If a member of the den is harmed, we hunt the cause. According to the cubs, that apparently included causes with hinges and a frame. Captain Threx arrived just in time to see the entire youth contingent organizing themselves into a war party. The bruise on Kita's cheek pulsed with a tale they hadn't yet heard. "Report," Threx commanded, his deep voice cutting through the chatter. Kita just pointed at her own face. "Accident." The captain came closer, examining the bruise, his nostrils flaring with concern. "Severity? 2 out of 10. Maybe 3 if I poke it." She poked it. "Ow, yeah, 3. The cubs gasped as if she had been struck again right before their eyes. "You must rest," Threx said sternly. "You are fragile." Kita raised an eyebrow. "I've literally been shot and walked it off." "You are still fragile," he insisted. "Just stubborn." That was fair. Threx then turned to the assembled cubs. "Explain your mobilization." "A door attacked her, Captain," one of them declared with righteous fury. "It did not attack me," Kita snapped. "I walked into it." "Same outcome," the cub muttered under his breath. Threx rubbed the bridge of his snout, a gesture of weary exasperation. "We will not declare vengeance on a door." Several cubs groaned in disappointment. But Threx wasn't finished. "However, if one of ours is injured, we must determine if there is a threat present." Kita's stomach sank. "Threx, no." "Show us," he said. It wasn't a request. The site of the attack, as the cubs dramatically called it, was simply the airlock entrance leading to Docking Bay 3. Kita had misjudged the automatic door, timing something she'd done 1,000 times before on human stations without any injury. Threxian doors, however, were made for creatures with horns and armored hides. The sensor was calibrated for those much tougher creatures. Humans, unfortunately, were significantly squishier than the typical user. Kita stood before the door with her arms crossed. "Look, I turned, the door opened, I walked into it." End of story. Threx crouched beside the doorway, examining it like a crime scene investigator. "Scan the aggressor," he ordered. "It's not an aggressor," Kita said through gritted teeth. Miri scanned it anyway. "Pressure plates indicate standard force output." She turned to Kita. "Your skull is not standard. Rude." Threx rose to his full height and faced her. "You must report these things. Your biology is vulnerable. You lack fur. You lack armor plating. You lack—" "I get it," she cut in. I'm built differently. That is one way to say completely unprotected yes. Kita sighed. Threx, you don't protect me because I'm fragile. You protect me because I'm part of the den. Threx blinked, startled by her firmness. The cubs perked up. She invoked den bonding terms. One whispered excitedly. That means we must double protection, another added. No doubling, Kita said quickly. What I'm saying is that accidents happen. Humans bruise easily. Seriously, we get bruises from walking into chairs. The cubs stared at her like she had just confessed to living in an active war zone. Threx looked equally horrified. Your furniture injures you? Not intentionally? Do you live in a death den? Miri demanded, her voice full of alarm. Kita pinched the bridge of her nose, feeling a headache coming on. It's just a normal apartment. Threx exhaled deeply, his mind made up. We will increase safety protocols on the ship. Kita opened her mouth to object. But then she saw the cubs still trembling with the residual fear that something had attacked her. Still pressing against her legs like she might vanish if they didn't anchor her. And her protest died in her throat. Fine, she said softly. 1 safety protocol. 5, Threx countered instantly. 2, 4, Threx. 3, he said. Final offer. Kita gave him a look. You can negotiate battle treaties between feuding clans, but you haggle like a used car salesman. He lifted a shoulder in a casual shrug. Only when it concerns you. Her chest tightened in a way no Bruise could ever match. The safety protocols were implemented within a day. Door sensors were recalibrated for human height and speed. Padding lines were added at head level in all major corridors. Warning lights were installed for sudden door movements. There was even a small sign on Docking Bay 3 that read, Human crossing walk with care. Kita groaned every time she passed it, but the cubs worshipped it like a holy relic. Every evening they brought her things: herbal gels, heated compresses, small trophies from their successful protection practice. They sat with her, their tiny bodies curled around her shoulders, purring softly. And every evening, Threx checked the bruise with a tenderness he pretended not to possess. When it finally faded, the cubs held a celebration feast. For healing, they declared. For victory over the door, another shouted triumphantly. Kita nearly choked on her drink. It wasn't a war. Threx only chuckled, his eyes warm. Perhaps not, but you returned to us. That is what matters. Kita smiled a real, genuine smile. Because in their strange, fierce way they loved her. And in her strange, stubborn human way she loved them back. Even if she was pretty sure they were still planning revenge on the furniture back on Earth. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more adventures from across the galaxy. See you next time. By the time Captain Revere escorted me through the healing hall, the bruise on my cheek had darkened to a deep violet. The cubs, all 6 of them, walked beside me in a tight furry formation, their tails stiff with the kind of righteous fury only the young can muster. They thought they were protecting me. The truth was they just refused to let me out of their sight. I tried to tell them I was okay, but the smallest and loudest cub, Yuri, immediately chirped. Incorrect. Your face is leaking colors. Tovran, always the first to suggest violence, snarled. It is a mark of conflict. Who harmed our Mara? Revere tried to gently remind them. She is not our Mara. But his voice lacked conviction and the cubs completely ignored him. The healer, a tall Saraxi named Hurat, approached with a scanning wand. He took one look at me and let out a deep, rumbling sigh. You were struck with intent. The pattern is clear. I muttered that it was nothing, really, but Hurat's gaze sharpened. Humans diminish harm so others will not worry. Stop that. The cubs nodded furiously in agreement. Revere then stepped forward, his voice firm. Human, as acting officer of this outpost, I require the truth. I knew resistance was pointless. It was one of the new mercenaries, I admitted. One of Korak's recruits. A low growl rippled through the hall. Even Hurat's fur stiffened. He grabbed my arm and shoved me, I continued. He wanted access to the storage bay. I told him protocol didn't allow it. He didn't like that answer. Tovran immediately jumped up. Give us his name. We will end him. Absolutely not, I snapped, which seemed to genuinely offend them. Yuri piped up. Names have power. If you give us his, justice is ours to enact. I don't want revenge, I said. Revere's voice was quiet but cut right through my defenses. You don't want, or you don't believe you deserve. I stiffened, hoping no one noticed the tremor in my voice. Of course they did. Revere placed a broad, surprisingly gentle paw on my shoulder. What was his name? I swallowed hard. Karn Vesk. The cubs hissed in unison, and the healer actually bared his fangs. Revere's tail lashed once. I should inform command. No, I said quickly. Please, I don't want this turning into a species incident. He barely touched me. The cubs looked at me like I'd just announced I was going to jump out an airlock for fun. Barely touched is still touch, Yuri said. And touch without consent is violation, Hura added. Revere let out a long breath. Human, your compassion is commendable. Your rationalizing is not. Before I could answer, a shrill chime cut through the room. An alert. Conflict in Docking Bay 3. Revere's ears shot up. Docking Bay 3. That is where Karn Vesk was stationed. My stomach dropped. As he shifted into command mode, he ordered the cubs to come with him, but Yuri protested, insisting they stay to protect me. Exasperated, Revere agreed and sprinted out. Silence fell. I rubbed my temples. This is all getting blown out of proportion. No, said Tovrin. This is proportion. 10 minutes later, the doors hissed open, but it wasn't Revere. It was Karn Vesk, and he was bleeding. He limped into the hall, his armor dented, his left arm hanging awkwardly, a line of dark blue blood running down his jaw. Oh no, I whispered. Our single quotes VARR ... What did you do? Karn spotted me, his expression curdling. You, he spat. Human, you ruined everything. The cubs moved as one, stepping between us. Stay back, Karn growled. I'm not here for you fuzz rats. I'm here for her. I stepped forward. Karn, stop. Whatever happened, we can talk this out. No, we can't, he snapped. Your commander attacked me. Said it was for dishonoring a crewmate. He swayed and Hewitt moved to catch him, but Karn shoved the healer back. That was his second mistake. The cubs attacked. They weren't trying to kill him, but they tackled him with surprising coordination, pinning him down. Stop, I yelled. He's injured. We are protecting you, Tovrin growled back. Finally, at Hewitt's command, they released him. I knelt a safe distance away. Karn, why did you come here? His laugh was bitter and broken. To finish what I started. Or to die trying. Why? I asked. Why me? You humiliated me, he rasped. A human. Fragile. Soft. I'm not supposed to lose to you. I shook my head. I never wanted to fight you. I just followed regulations. I took a breath, my voice steady. You wanted to enter an unsecured bay. The cargo was unstable. There were warning signs everywhere. I wasn't protecting the station, Karn. I was protecting you. Silence. Even the cubs hesitated. Karn's shoulders slumped. I didn't know that. You didn't ask, I replied. The big mercenary looked suddenly very small. I'm sorry, he whispered. The word hung in the air, sacred and heavy. Yuri climbed onto my shoulder. Does this mean we do not bite him? She whispered. No biting, I confirmed. Karn lowered his gaze. What happens now? I looked at Hurat, at the cubs, and toward the bay where alarms were still blaring. I don't know, I said honestly. But we'll handle it. Together. For the first time, this strange little family felt like it might just survive. But the distant alarms warned of a storm bigger than any of us could imagine. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe for the next part of the story. The healer's den smelled of crushed kel root and warm minerals. The kind of scent that usually soothed Kara's racing hearts, but tonight it only sharpened her worry. Because Miala, her human, sat on the examination slab with her arm bare, her shirt sleeve rolled up, and an ugly violet bruise blooming like a storm across her skin. Humans bruised easily. Kara knew that. Every adult of the Rovan clade knew that. But the cubs didn't. The door slid open and 3 small shapes burst through it like fired quarrels. Miala! Human Miala, you are harmed. Who did this? Give their names. Miala blinked, startled. Then she laughed. It was a soft, breathy sound that should have eased Kara's concern. But laughter didn't hide the wince when Miala shifted her injured arm. Hey! I'm okay, she said, raising her good hand in surrender. The littlest cub, Rilu, scrambled onto the slab as if scaling a mountain, planting herself right beside Miala's hip with puffed fur and bared baby fangs. Point, she demanded. Point us to the enemy. Miala looked at Kara helplessly. They think this bruise is a battle injury? Kara placed a hand over her snout to hide her amusement. Miala, in this den, injuries are never accidents. Someone bears responsibility. They wish to defend your honor. Miala stared at the cubs, then at the massive purple mark on her arm, then sighed dramatically. Well, I'm afraid my enemy is gravity. 3 pairs of fluffy ears perked. Gravity, Rilu repeated carefully. Is this a rival clan? Not exactly. It's just the ground was farther away than I expected, Miala said with a shrug. Kara felt her heart squeeze at the way the human tried to make light of it. Her scent, though faint, carried embarrassment, and something sharper pain she didn't want to admit. The second cub, Jero, hopped forward. So you fell. Why? Who pushed you? No one pushed me, Kara stepped in. Cubs, give her space. Miala is safe. But they didn't retreat. Cubs never retreated. Not when they cared. Jero's tail curled anxiously. If you fell, someone must pay vengeance. Miala blinked. That's shockingly intense. Kyra touched the human's uninjured shoulder gently. To them, you are pack. A bruise on you is a challenge to all of us. Miala's eyes softened in a way that made Kara's chest feel too warm. That's very sweet. Violent, but sweet. The healer, a patient elder named Solon, approached with a glowing diagnostic wand. Miala, he said in the rumble of age. May I? Go ahead. As Solon worked, Rilu crawled closer until she could rest one tiny, fuzzy paw on Miala's leg. Does it hurt? Only when I move it, Miala said. Then we will carry you, Rilu declared. Miala merely choked. What? No, you'll get crushed. Rilu puffed up. We are strong. Jero added. Very strong. Kara cleared her throat. Cubs, you may assist her in ways that do not involve lifting. All 3 cubs slumped. Miala hid a smile, but Kara saw it. She also saw how tightly Miala held herself, shoulders stiff, breath shallow. Not because of the bruise. Because of the humiliation. Because the story was incomplete. Kara stepped closer, lowering her voice so only Miala could hear. Tell me what truly happened. Miala stared at her knees for a long moment. Then she whispered, I didn't fall. Kara's fur bristled. Who? She asked, her voice low and dangerous. A trainee, one of the new ones. They shoved past me during drills. They said I was slowing them down. Miala swallowed. I didn't want to start a fight. Kara's claws clicked on the stone floor as they unsheathed instinctively. You should have told me immediately. I didn't want the cubs to think violence is the answer. Kara huffed. You are part of this clade. Your safety is not optional. Miala opened her mouth, but Solon interrupted. The bone is whole, the healer announced. Soft tissue bruising only. She will heal within 2 rotations. The cubs exhaled in collective relief. Then, we hunt the trainee, Jero declared. No, Miala said quickly. Yes, Kara corrected. But not violently. She turned to the cubs. Instead, we report. The clade enforces justice. Understood? The cubs groaned in disappointment, but nodded. Miala smiled faintly. Thank you, Kara, really. Kara leaned in, her forehead brushing Miala's gently a-roving gesture of fierce promise. No one harms what is mine to protect. Miala froze, her breath catching. The cubs gasped in scandalized delight. She claimed her. Rilu squeaked. Kara jolted. Not in that way. Miala blushed furiously. Not in any way. But the cubs were already celebrating. Kyra sighed. Humans bruised easily. But apparently, so did dignity. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. We love reading your comments, so let us know what you think below. Thanks for watching.